There are more reasons for raising a child bilingually than you may think. Hi, I'm Veronica with WatchMojo.com, and today we're speaking with Caroline Erdos, a speech-language pathologist from the Montreal Children's Hospital, on the do's and don'ts of raising a child learning 2 languages from birth. What are the benefits of raising a child who knows more than 1 language?
Well, there are several cognitive advantages. So, for example, bilingual children have been found to have better abilities at problem solving and at ignoring irrelevant information when they're problem solving. There are also advantages later in life. For example, adults with Alzheimer, the adults who are bilingual will tend to only begin showing signs of Alzheimer later than the monolingual individuals.
Do you always have to have one parent speak one language, the other parent speak another language, and their teachers stick to 1 language?
One can choose the formula one wants, so it could be 1 parent, 1 language at home, 2 different languages in the home, or it could be 1 language in the home, 1 language at daycare. There are various formulas. What that does is ensure that there's a sufficient amount of input in each language. So, for example, a child with whom we only read in a language would not necessarily be exposed to vocabulary concerning academics or sports. But if we're holding many conversations with that child in that language, then we're covering a wide range of vocabulary.
Will learning more than 1 language ever confuse your child?
No, generally children are quite able to learn 2 languages, and in fact worldwide there are more individuals who are bilingual than individuals who are monolingual.
Now, should parents worry if the child uses 2 languages in 1 sentence?
No, actually it's quite natural phenomena for individuals who are bilingual to use words from the other language, and in fact children tend to do that more if they're around adults who they know speak both languages, and if they do that in a context where the adults do not speak both languages, they're usually doing it because they don't have the word in 1 language and they'll borrow from another language. It's not something to worry about.
Will a child who's learning more than 1 language speak later on in life than someone who's just learning 1 language?
In fact, studies have looked at comparing language milestones between bilingual children and monolingual children, and the milestones appear to be very similar. So the babbling occurs around the same age whether a child is monolingual or bilingual. First words, first word combinations, sentences.
Are there any situations where maybe it's not ideal to teach your child 2 languages?
Not that I know of. Even in the extreme case of children who have language disorders or what we call language impairment, those children, whether they're bilingual or monolingual, their language skills will look the same. So bilingualism does not further exacerbate even a child with language difficulties. Of course, the child will have difficulty learning the second language because that child had difficulty learning a first language. But to the extent that that child can learn 1 language, she can learn a second language.
So is it ever too late to introduce a new language for your child?
It probably is never too late, but the later a child is introduced to a language, the less likely that child is to lose the accent. There's some critical age that is yet unidentified, but beyond that age, that's what we're seeing, is that one can learn the language very well, but will not necessarily master the language in terms of pronunciation.
As a parent, what can you do to make sure that your child will learn both languages to the best of his or her ability?
Well, they can make sure that the child is getting a sufficient amount of input, so at least 30% of what the child hears should be in a given language if that child is expected to be productive in that language. They should also make sure that the person who is speaking to the child masters the language, so the child is getting an adequate language model. And the exposure should be sustained. It should not be just sporadically throughout the year. It should be as often as possible and in a sustained, continuous manner.
Well, thank you. It was really great having you.
It's my pleasure.